and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
For the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to I guess we'll call it a bonus edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. How are you? And by the time that you're listening to this, I should just go ahead and get ahead of myself and say Happy New Year. I am obviously recording this before the year turns over, but we're in short order of that. And as the days count down, apparently WoW will return to I shouldn't say return to the airways. They never left the airways. They just decided that reruns was good enough for about a month or so. But they will return to having new episodes and new matches and unseen matchups January 3rd, according to them. Now, of course, nothing's wrong with that. It's very common for most television shows to take a little bit of a hiatus coming into the holiday season. And a good chunk of their fan base is, right on board with that. It's like, all right, hey, you guys, great. Oh, wow, January 3rd, I can't wait, stuff like that. And people wishing them well and like, you should take it, enjoy the time and rest up and all that, good stuff like that. Which also just kind of re-solidified the point. I was like, WoW fans are very casual. I mean, at best, I'm sure you have some that are wrestling fans or deeper caliber wrestling fans, but I think it's safe to say that most of WoW's legitimate fan base are very casual people. They don't live and die off of what WoW has done online and on the internet and stuff like that. So most of them probably have no idea that it was shot months in advance and they're just seeing it. If they're under the assumption that, this is now happening, so we're just going to go ahead and let them take their break. Little did they know that, as far as a break from WoW is concerned, they'd like break it months at a time. Not the tapings, but being away from the WoW ring. To be blissfully ignorant like that would be great. I might enjoy the show better if I were not aware of the fact that this stuff was all shot in like a month or whatever the case may be. But in any case, they will return. Then we'll get back to this. I will admit I have enjoyed my little reprieve from having to deal with it. Yes, it still comes on. Yes, I'm still in a room that the broadcast of it is going to air, and there's generally somebody in there that's going to flip to it just to have it on, but I haven't had to deal with it in about 3 weeks now. Just because, like, I've seen all of them, it's not worth my time. I'm not going to, if it's on any screen that I'm monitoring at work, it's just there to be on in the background, and that was pretty much it. However, as we get ready to go into their return, and I can only hope that maybe, just maybe, there's some change that is taking place that will make this a much more palatable program for me. My fingers are crossed, but I ain't expecting much. I sincerely hope that I get something else by the way of their creative than I had been getting. But time will tell. In the interim of that, I had decided that, well, maybe I need to do something else just to kind of keep things going. I did take my 2-3 weeks out. So if there's any plus that not having WoW air has done, it gave me certainly a break. But keeping in the theme of it, I figured, why don't we find some stuff that not necessarily WoW, but WoW adjacent. And that's when I came up with this. There's been a few times that WoW talent have had matches that existed beyond the actual WoW ring. And I thought it might be interesting to go through a few of those. There's about 3 of them that we have here. That some WoW talent using their WoW persona have appeared and wrestled in not necessarily a WoW adjacent environment. There's only connective tissue by the name. So I decided to sit down and watch these particular matches. Now, first thing, I had to give myself a little bit of criteria as to what and how this was going to work. Because there's a lot of them that exist just in the wrestling circles in general. So, the first thing had to be is that whomever it is that I was going to look at the match of outside of their normal WoW environment, they had to use their WoW name. Meaning, there are probably a dozen plus Marina Tucker matches out there. But I have to use the one that she's labeled as Penelope Pink. That would be, one aspect of it there. Same rules are going to apply in this particular instance for the Tonga twins, even though the Tonga twins quit or got fired, depending on which side of the story that you heard or want to believe. They no longer wrestle at WoW, but they still use the WoW names that they, I guess, were assigned or agreed to or whatever the case would be. And I only bring them into the fold because as far as I had known, they had not used the name preceding going to WoW. I thought they, if I'm remembering correctly, they used the name the MK Twins. So the Tonga twins fit the criteria. Who do not fit the criteria would be someone like Holiday. I had to kind of create my own ruling there in that if there's a person that wrestles as the same name that they do in and out of WoW, well, that, kind of makes it a little difficult. So we're going to just leave it with the people that exist within WoW and not are able to go back and forth, like your Santana Garrett's, like your, like I said, Holiday. They carry their name wherever they go. So because of that, we're going to have to disqualify them out of this particular exercise. And I believe that is mostly what I came down with as far as this is concerned. So let us look into the world of indie wrestling to those who have decided that they were going to give the indie realm a try and wrestled as their WoW persona in a different environment. And those matches that we've come up with here all are available on YouTube. So let's start with that. They're all YouTube available matches. You can find them relatively easily. I will try to endeavor to place the links in the description below so you can get to watch it on your own time. Fair warning, these are matches of varying degrees of production value. They're not the official videos from the event. The Queen's Gambit, for instance, which is, featured the Tonga twins. Well, the video that is found online is shot, or I shouldn't say by one of the participants, but easily it had to have been her camera or something because it's on her YouTube channel. And it is not the greatest quality there. I don't know why they didn't bother to zoom in, but it just, it is what it is. However, just bear in mind that there are alternatives out there for every match that I'm talking about. If you do not want to sit through those, you can find the other ones. I think VIP Wrestling is available on Triller. I am fairly sure about that. The other promotions that will appear in this particular review are Next Level Championship Wrestling and also Kingdom Pro Wrestling. Now, the other two, those are up in the air. Not really sure whether they actually put those out there for people to get a hold of and watch, but we'll go with what we got. Okay? So, the three matches that we are going to talk about here, featuring our existing and sometimes already removed wild names, are 1, the Tonga Twins versus Fire and Fury. 2, Penelope Pink versus Sandy Shore. That one was a full WOW event that just took place outside of WOW. And 3, Miami Sweet Heat versus Rose Gold and Jazz. So we are going to go through those and see what we liked and what we didn't. And, does it work when they leave out of WOW? Do they show a different side of themselves? Are they wrestling more magnificently? Are they representing the name, and what have you? All of those things we should take a look at as we go through it. So let's do that now. First up, the match with the Tonga Twins versus Fire and Fury. Fire and Fury is comprised of the team of Morgan Mercy and Nova Phoenix. The event date was January 31st, 2025. The event name was Queen's Gambit. This is also known as the event that was, I guess, somewhat suffered, depending on your point of view, with the removal of Jordan Grace. Initially, if I'm remembering correctly, Grace was scheduled to be part of this event, and she was going to go against another WOW alumni, Killer Kate. Although I do believe she was going to be wrestling as Killer Kate, not BK Rhythm. Jordan was out because of her new WWE commitments. Tessa Blanchard was in. So there you have it. Again, this event was put on by VIP Wrestling. It is available, or at least this match, for what it's worth, is available on Nova Phoenix YouTube channel. That's right. One of the participants of the match had it recorded off in the background. And again, the quality of the shows vary. And this is probably the worst of them because it's off in the background. You'd have to assume that somebody was standing there recording it, just because it did move every so often. So you would think, all right, well, somebody's there doing it. Now, why they didn't just zoom in, I don't know. It just seems silly that they wouldn't have done it. But however, that's not the point here. The point here is the match in itself. And this is free, so what are you going to do? Fire and Fury come out first, as they're introduced first, and they're clearly working as the heels in this environment, if not just being more aggressive. The Tonga Twins got an entrance, but the Tongan dancers bring them in. I thought that was a nice touch, just to kind of give them kind of a babyface rub before they did anything. Bear in mind that the match is cold. It's not like there's some sort of ongoing rivalry. There wasn't any sort of I hate you, you hate me. You know, you didn't have that. You just had more or less a match. After the dancers bring them out, the match is jump started by Fire and Fury. I couldn't understand the ring announcer when she called out the twins' names. However, I did see that when they were wrestling for the NWA and they were no longer using the Tonga twins' name, which I would imagine they were just going to have to get rid of at some point in time. I'm surprised that they went as the Tonga twins at this event. But at the NWA, they went as the Island Twins. And I think it was Talavu Tonga and Tahane Tonga. I am probably mispronouncing both of those. So to the Island Twins, I apologize. But for those that were anywhere concerned or curious about who won and who they faced at the Crockett Cup tournament, even though that's not the review that I'm doing, they faced against Tiffany Neves and Valentina Rossini, or Rossi. Adriana Gambino, for those that remember her there. But the twins did not win against TVMA. And I don't think Valentina's even part of that group anymore, but we'll get to that at some point in time, I'm sure. So, some of the highlights that took place within the course of this match is that Nova Phoenix that is, has a chop battle with one of the twins. Wish I could tell you which one was who, but especially at that distance, I could not look at the tattoos for me to say, okay, that's twin 1 or twin 2. Phoenix made her sound off. She got a good one in on one of them, and it popped the crowd. The twins, not so much. Wasn't able to really get that in there. And the twins at some point hit a choke slam on Morgan Mercy, but it's broken up by Phoenix. Fire and Fury turned the tide when Mercy hot shot, one of the twins throat first on the top rope. And that put the heat on that particular twin. We'll just call her twin 1. There was a nice step-up senton that Mercy hit. Fire and Fury also did a nice fake-out before hitting a series of moves on the before-mentioned twin 1. There is a point in the match where it seems that neither team knew what to do. This was at the arm trap spot. If you see it watching the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. It just seemed like a little bit of a stall. The twins did a sequence where it was, we're all going to hit the big moves here. And whereas it was nice, this sequence also suffered from timing. It would have been a far better thing if it was just slightly more fluid. And I think that's the only thing that hurt that particular spot within the match. Timing kept it from looking at its best. That's the absolute best way I can describe it. If it was a flawless effort, and I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but if it was a flawless effort between boom, 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 they're hitting their big moves one after the other, after the other, after the other, it probably would have visually come off a little better, but that was the big note that I had to put there. Timing kept us from looking at its best. All 4 ladies take turns punching each other in a circle. This is where it got a little silly for me. It was a case of hit the person that's to your left, regardless of who hit you first. So you got all members in the middle of the ring in somewhat of a circle, and imagine that Morgan Mercy hits twin number 1. Well, then twin number 1 just decides to go and not hit Morgan Mercy back. she would hit Nova Phoenix. Then Nova Phoenix, instead of hitting that twin, would just hit twin number 2. And then twin number 2 would go ahead and hit Morgan Mercy, and it would just continue around like that. I was like, that. I know that we try to have some things that look interesting and cool in the middle of the shows and the matches and whatnot. That just did not strike me as good. I wanted to like it, but my mind is like, this does not make any sense. I don't know if somebody punched me that I'm just going to turn around and hit the friend of theirs next to them or next to me on the opposite side. That just seemed like not a smart thing. However, again, we know that they're just doing it because, it's somebody thought it was a nice thing to do, I'm sure. So they kept that going briefly. Fire and Fury hit a double choke bomb. But after that, Phoenix had to act stunned as one of the twins ran in past her and, she did nothing about it, basically. That's another case of a small thing. If the positioning were just a little better. Ultimately, this match was won by the Tonga twins, pinning Morgan Mercy following their given finish. They did maintain and retain the finish that they had in a while. So I'm assuming that they've been doing this, or maybe they just perfected it there. But they won after a neckbreaker / Samoan drop. And that was a 1, 2, 3. But the twins looked about the same as they did with WoW, with no significant changes. I mean, not even really to the look or the style or anything like that. They felt, looked, walked, talked, and act the same. So it wasn't a change of gimmick. It wasn't that we're gonna just wipe all of the stuff that we did in WoW away. None of those things took place. They had a reasonable match with opponents that were positioned as being, we'll say, equal to, in terms of size and being able to bully them around and stuff like that. But if there was any takeaway that I got from looking at this particular match, it's good that they are continuing on. And I say that with most of the girls that come out of WoW. It's good when they decide that they want, we're going to continue on and we're going to find our stride in wrestling. I say great for them. And in this case, great for them that they are doing that. They're probably going to need to have more matches than what they've had. It doesn't seem like they're as frequent as they may have liked to have been or should be. But the fact that they're out on the indies and trying to get some matches underneath them, I say bravo to that. Hopefully they're doing it for all the right reasons, opposed to we're just showing up here at these places that pay us big and help us get on TV or something. But as it is right now, just based on them showing up and having these matches with some of the smaller local talents in certain areas, I say good on them. I hope that they get the experience, they being the Tonga twins or the Island twins now, that they are seeking to gain. But ultimately what I wrote down here is they look about the same as they did in WoW, with no significant changes. Not a bad thing, but just no significant changes. They were fine, but they aren't likely to go to the WWE or AEW anytime soon. They need more polish. That was my overall assessment of the Tonga twins. I also put down stuff for Fire and Fury that they too need refining, in my opinion. And although I do not say this as an insult, or I'm not saying it to be like, this is what they need to do, and then they'll automatically get hired. I'm just saying I think this particular thing would improve their marketability. The gym probably would add a lot to their intimidation factor. That they remind me of not really a Road Warriors, but I mean, it's kind of the closest thing I can give it, like a Road Warriors or Demolition, type of thing. I wish they were kind of more brawling, and if that were the case, like what I envisioned in my head. But they kind of exist off of a level of intimidation. They're not a clean looking team. They do look like two people that are that could probably fight or be willing to go through and beat up all of the women in whatever division they happen to be in. That toning up and retooling and smoothing them out in the gym might be a good thing for both of them. Want to be clear, not saying that they have any need. I'm not saying that this is a necessity. I am saying that I think it would help them in selling the product, and the product that they're trying to sell is them. If they're going to go for the intimidation thing, if they're going to go for the, we're the tough girl team, might as well add on to that. Make it worth the money that these promoters are paying. I would also suggest to them not walking out with one chain connecting to both of them. That is one problem away from happening. And it almost did. Just when they come into the ring, it looked like Morgan had got her foot not caught, but like she didn't clear the ropes enough for her not to have a little stutter step. And that chain's not all that long. If I were a guessing man, I mean, maybe a little less than 6 feet, and it's connected to both of them by their throat. If Morgan had gone down when she walked through that rope and tripped, she would have taken Nova Phoenix with her. So, small thing. If they're going to have a chain, make that thing have some slack on it and somebody can carry, or don't carry it at all, because that would concern me. That really would concern me. It's like, and the only just seeing them walk in and seeing Morgan catch her foot just a little bit made me feel like, ooh, that could have been nasty. I shouldn't be thinking like that, but it really could have been. But you be the judge. No commentary here, and again, the camera's off in the distance, but you can watch the match. I will try to leave the link below, and you'll get you a little bit of a cameo there when the position of the camera. There's several people that's walking through. Well, one of those people that's walking through, it happens to be a young Izzy Morano. That's right. Remember Bailey's superfan, as she's out there running around on the independent circuit now? Well, she was at this event as well. I believe she held Mission Pro. She was the Mission Pro Women's Champion. I think she just held the belt after the promotion closed. So, if I am remembering that correctly as well, she still just went around defending the championship. And I just wanted to point that out because I think about 13 minutes into the match, you might see her just walking up steps. This is just a quick, brief thing. Didn't mean a lot. Just a point of interest that I was like, hey, there's Izzy. So the next match, that one is a WOW showcase. And that match is Penelope Pink taking on Sandy Shore. Now, both of these young ladies do operate as different individuals outside of WOW. We have Marina Tucker, a.k.a. Penelope Pink, and then we got Madison Maxwell, a.k.a. Sandy Shore. This took place January 25th, 2025, and this is Next Level Championship Wrestling. The video is available on two different YouTube channels. In this particular case, we use the Roughshod Stalks YouTube channel because he has the full version of the match. There are a few other ones out there, but again, this is the one that was full. This is the one that had the match from start to finish. It is a much cleaner video, aside from the fact that you've got them shooting from the front row, and you got the cameraman that is like right in the way of this on multiple occasions. So, keep that in mind as well. If I did not state it earlier, this was billed as a WOW showcase match for obvious reasons, because it wasn't a WOW girl coming in against a local talent. This was literally a WOW match. It just took place outside of a WOW ring. This opens up, or at least the video that we're watching, opens up with an interview with Penelope Pink. Pink establishes that she's still the heel here. She comes in and does the heel shtick that basically, I'm gracing you people with my presence, which you would expect her to do. As she does this, Sandy Shore comes out and she cuts a promo of her own. This does help her perception a little bit, but just as a sidebar, the bigger issue here for me, and this is not something that, I can criticize WOW about. This is, probably just I have a difference of opinion in the booking. The bigger issue is that it doesn't seem like a good WOW match to present. Well, and I say that with all due respect to Sandy Shore, because again, Sandy Shore is not presented the same way as Madison Maxwell had been. Shore on WOW's TV has been largely positioned as lower card, loses more often than she wins. So when I look at it in those terms, it's kind of difficult to say that this match was in doubt. Shore has never been positioned on their television as someone that was in the same sphere as Penelope Pink. Pink is regarded as the main eventer there. Sandy Shore is not. And so it would make you think about the idea that, well, if you're attracting WOW fans and people that are already attuned to, know about the people, familiar with the wrestlers, et cetera, if you're starting off with that idea, well, then again, this match, would it be in doubt? Would it ever come across your mind that Penelope Pink was losing? Because why would she? For those who do not watch it, then it wouldn't have made a difference about what she did. But it wouldn't have made a difference that they had Penelope Pink there either. If they didn't watch WOW, or it didn't have any sort of drawing power, it wouldn't have mattered who they got off their roster. Penelope Pink, Santana Garrett, Holiday, Chainsaw, Top Tier, Fab Four, Environmentalists, anywhere, top to bottom and anywhere in between, it wouldn't have mattered. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they didn't watch it or they didn't care, why bother, to bring them in the first place under those names at least? And if they do watch, then why have Penelope Pink going against Sandy Shore? But that is neither here nor there. So Shore cuts a promo, and this is probably the best thing that she could have done. I don't know who assigned or told her to do it, but this does help change the presentation of what she had. Like I said, it may have helped the perception just a little bit. The closest thing that I really could have thought of is she might have had to be the underdog in this particular event, and maybe that would have gotten somebody behind her. But as it was, she was just Sandy Shore. Pink before she is done with the promo segment, attacks Shore, sets her down, then she walks out of the ring. So, if nothing else, we know that Pink is who you're going to boo, Sandy Shore is who you're going to cheer, and they've established that right here. I thought it was great that they had at least a interview segment to do this, because it needed to be reinforced or established to whoever was there who was doing what and why. And that's what you got. It was a pie face and then a hair yank, and Penelope Pink was on her way back to the locker room until the match would happen later on in the show. And in that later on point in the show, Sandy comes out hot. There's a Thez press on Pink, and of course I'm not going through it play by play and blow by blow, but just bear with me here, folks. Pink cuts Shaw off in the corner and then proceeds to take control of the match. Sandy mounts a comeback but at the end of this, a shove off and a thump to the eye, and Pink wins by pinning Shaw with her finish, Pretty in Pink. Natural selection for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about. And the win was fairly clean. It was easy, and it felt like if WoW had a house show, this should be on it. That's what this match felt like. If there was any aspirations for WoW to travel around and like, okay, we're just going to have some matches to take to your town and you get to see the WoW wrestlers live and wherever you are, this felt like it would be one of those. It was nice for what it was. It was brief. And I wrote down all due respect to Sandy Shore, but she isn't perceived on the same level as Pink, and herein it showed. The footage is clean, but it is shot from behind the guardrail, regardless of the fact that there's somebody there that has a camera that's standing in the way. That footage I've not been able to find. There's no commentary, obviously, but you have lots of kids yelling, so you might want to either tune them out or turn it down. And the video ends with someone saying, "Wow," about WoW women of wrestling. That's all I got to say. I mean, that's literally what that person says. And I wish I knew if that was a positive or a negative thing. The tone made me feel like it was negative. But I can't justifiably say that because I have no idea. It was just like, wow, about WoW women of wrestling. That's all I got to say. It just seemed somewhat dismissive, but that might be that person's natural demeanor. I don't know. I also wrote down, where is the actual footage of this? I mean, it's been months, and I think I wrote down the wrong date. I didn't mean. I said January 25th. It's listed as February the 15th. So, my mistake, folks, my mistake. But I do question where the actual footage of this is. You can see it right there on these videos that someone was there recording it. Why it hasn't been released or where it happens to be, maybe it's behind a paywall and I'm not aware of it. That's a whole different issue. But I have not a clue. Not a clue where that is. Maybe one day it'll pop up and it'll be a far better thing to see it under those circumstances than catching another bootleg. The final match that was listed in this journey through the world outside of WoW was Rose Gold and Jazz versus Miami Sweet Heat. This was not the original matchup. Originally, it was supposed to be Flex Rated and Jazz versus Miami Sweet Heat. Flex Rated, when I spoke with her, said she had unfortunately gotten injured and she had to pull out. They substituted her with Rose Gold. This is obviously the show that I was considering making a run down to. It's about 2.5 hours away from me. No. getting my shows mixed up. Penelope Pink and Sandy Shores, that show in Augusta, that was about 2.5 hours for me. The Rose Gold Jazz Miami Sweet Heat, not much more of a difference. I think it's like 3 or maybe just a little bit slightly above that, but still a doable drive. Although, in hindsight and seeing where the building was, I was like, I could have done it, and I'd have been okay being there, but I'm also not sweating bullets over the fact that I missed it once I saw where it was at. So anyhow, Gold and Jazz in her first. Rose Gold's gimmick is that she's the tallest woman in wrestling. At least that's part of it. She seems like she has somewhat of a multi-layered thing. She comes out with the fan and all that good stuff. And I'm not entirely sure what her full deal is outside of that. She's tall, but it's also the indies, and sometimes the indies can be a little disjointed. It can be hard to follow along if you have not had these people do any sort of world building, for lack of a better term. They both did good promos walking into this. I did put their promos in the Talking the Talk segment preceding the actual show. I thought Miami Sweet Heat did a great job with their promo. Surprisingly enough, I thought they did a far better job than the baby faces in this equation here. It's probably a little unfair of me to say it, but I was expecting it to be the other way around. I was expecting it to be, well, Rose Gold and Jazz are going to have to hold up because Gold did have experience. However, I don't know how much experience she's had as a babyface, but we'll get into that. So Gold and Jazz entered this first. Jazz, I know, is relatively new, and I want to say at this point in this particular event, she might be maybe a year worth of experience. I mean, I'm probably giving a lot of credit to say she had a year worth of experience at this point. Easily, she was the least experienced of the 4. But they come out first, and they are the working baby faces in this equation. Nigel Zane is there as the ring announcer. I just assume that he is part of the Miami Sweet Heat package. If you're hiring them, you might get Nigel along with him, or at least he'll make the offer, I assume. I do not know. Because they're outside of him doing the ring announcement, I can't imagine that it was worth whatever money they might have paid to have him come up there to do that, because I didn't see a commentary table, not to say that there wasn't one. Maybe he did it in post. I don't know. But he just came up, did the announcement. You saw him there, and that was it. It was like, well, that seems like a good gig for him, I guess, depending on how much he might have got paid to do it. And you'd have to assume he got paid. I also came to the conclusion here, as I was watching this match, at some point, WOW needs to settle the name. Because there are occasions when it goes back and forth. Sometimes it's Miami Sweet Heat, and I have seen that. And then there's times that where it's Miami's Sweet Heat. And they've had that in lower thirds. They've had it in press releases. It's like they have not settled on whether it's singular or possessive. So is it Miami Sweet Heat or Miami's Sweet Heat? And they should just go with one and stick with it. But that hasn't happened yet. But in this case, he was announced as Miami Sweet Heat. But for the sake of this, we'll call them the Carlsons. The Carlsons come out and do their normal WOW shtick, which, quite honestly, in this environment is not nearly as effective as when they do it on television. I would obviously suggest that they condense it down to indie entrance versus what they're doing on television. They did address the audience, but it looks kind of weird when you have a camera there, whether they knew the camera was recording or not, it does look a little weird that they turned their backs to it to do their whole Miami Sweet Heat entrance. As I stated before, Rose Gold labels herself the tallest one in wrestling, which is obviously not true. Her tag team partner is roughly about the same size as she is. However, in this particular event, she is taller than the Carlsons. So it does help in that regard that she can actually hey, I am tall and taller than this these young ladies. As long as she can stay away from women that are of equal height, given Jazz was pretty close, I probably wouldn't have her near there unless we're going to do a Twin Towers type of gimmick. And she definitely doesn't need to go anywhere near Greta, who's 6'6". I think she's in the NWA. So if she's want to maintain the gimmick of being the tallest one in wrestling, she definitely needs to steer away from those individuals and anybody else that's 6'2" and above. Normally I can tell that in a few times that she's tall. I don't know if I've seen her tower over somebody, and that, maybe tower might be a big much, but I would say that she looked like on camera there was about a head's difference between her and who was that in front of her? Lindsay, I think. So it worked in this particular instance. So the Heat get into the ring. The babyfaces are in there. They come up to them. They have words with each other. The Twins jumpstart the match. And even though they jumpstart, they get overtaken by the babyfaces. This was not a perfect match by any stretch of the imagination. I will say this in relation to the Twins. One, I think that the effort was there. Two, I know that at least one of them was looking forward to, trying to do a little bit more of these just to get the experience, just to learn, just to get sharper and better within these situations. So I appreciate that effort. There were times here that it did not necessarily translate. One of those things being a clothesline spot. Lori nails Lindsay and it looked off. It looked like I have to do this spot because we planned to do this spot. And even though you can clearly see that this clothesline is coming and I can see that there's no one in the way of me getting ready to deliver this clothesline, I have to hit you with it anyway. And that took a little something out of it. She hit her sister basically for no good reason. It was supposed to have been more like babyfaces get out the way and I can't stop myself. Bam, I nail her and then that's it. But it didn't quite come out that way. After the heels screw up, the babyfaces take over at the start of the match. Jazz, at this point, seemed somewhat limited. Just judging by what we could see her do in this particular match. And the heat was on her when they got to that point of the heat. We also saw Rose Gold. I don't know if it's just the miscalculation. I don't know if she's not used to doing working off the babyface side of things and maybe trying to do babyface maneuvers didn't work out for her, but there was a couple of times where the judgment was just wrong. She tried to do a face wash against Lindsay in the corner where she being Lindsay more or less had to sell a phantom face wash. Rose Gold's foot hit the turnbuckle very evidently, which was supposed to be the wash against Lindsay, and she had to sell it anyway. So again, another spot there that didn't quite work out the way that we would have liked it to. The Carlsons gained control after Jazz misses a charge in the corner. From that point on, for several minutes, Jazz was beaten up. Like I said, they got the heat on hers. And I can imagine that a lot of that was probably due to her being the least experienced of the four. And so they worked on her, and they worked on her, and they worked on her. And there were points where they worked on the leg. The Carlsons were operating as a pretty good heel unit at this point. There is one in the match where Jazz could have clearly tagged her partner, but they had to act like they couldn't reach as Lori dragged her away, to get out of arm's reach of her partner. The twins are healing it up as much as they can, and give them credit for that. When Jazz is able to get free, we get another seemingly avoidable twin hits twin clothesline spot. And this one was probably just as bad, if not worse. I'm coming in, twins on the outside. She runs. No one's there, but I just got to fire for it and nail her with a clothesline. This is another one of those. If the timing had been better, this spot would have come off a lot more palatable. So she being Lindsay hits Lori with the clothesline. And then Jazz makes the tag off to Rose Gold. For some reason, Lindsay then decides to tag out, which you just hit your partner, and nothing happened to her. It's just she had to turn around and tag. So it didn't make a lot of sense that she did it. It was just like, well, why are you doing this? Lori comes in and she bumps around. I'm not saying that she was bouncing all over the building, but she bumps for Rose Gold. Gold misses a matrix kick where she kind of ducks out underneath the clothesline or some offensive move and tries to kick while she's in that bridge position. Good on Laura for not selling the phantom kick and making her do it again. So she had to do a second kick to hit her. I guess they had enough of selling stuff that didn't make sense or things that weren't there. So good on her for that. But then we get Gold and she tries to do something else, which I was really shocked. Because I know that she had at least been working since 2019, I want to say. It had been a while. So I expected a little bit more fluidity there, and especially considering that I think that the twins saw them as more or less green, which was shocking. Because I would have thought that Gold at this stage probably had more matches underneath her than both of them. But Rose Gold gets Lori in a corner and tries to do a spill heel kick. And again, her foot gets caught on the rope. She just couldn't hit all of it. It's just one kind of miss after another. It was not her shining moment here. I just have to put that out. It wasn't, even though this is footage that's provided completely by her. It's her camera and her YouTube channel that this is on. But yeah, it just did not seem to be her best night in terms of providing offense and doing what she was doing. At some point, this is coming towards the finish. Jazz sends Lindsay out of the ring. So now we got Rose Gold and Jazz in there with a singular Lori Carlson, and they hit a double choke slam on her for the pin. 1, 2, 3, it was over. Baby faces go over. It wasn't obviously the best match that Miami Sweet Heat could have. But I also would say on record that I don't think that was solely their fault, despite what I walked in there expecting. And like I said in the beginning, I expected to see a different version of this. I expected Rose Gold and Jazz to provide something else. We just did not get that. And the person that I thought would be more adequate within the course of the match did not do as well as she probably could have done. Jazz certainly looks like wrestling is what she wants to do, but she doesn't look completely comfortable yet. Gold looks comfortable, but didn't seem smooth with babyface moves. The Carlsons, for whatever we can say about them being on the WoW, and for whatever we can say about maybe the limited time that they have been on the independents, they were not the problem here. I think they stuck with everything that they knew to do, and probably did not go beyond whatever their skill set may be. They were looking for, maybe better execution, not high difficulty. They did try a couple of, like the leg slide spot they worked on Jazz, where Lori has her down on the mat, grabs her leg and slides out and yanks it down at the same time. That seems to be one of the things they add into their repertoire that they're trying to improve on work at. And good for them for using this platform to do it. And as far as the promotion was concerned, I was a little surprised, considering my conversations with the promoter himself. You would have thought that this was going to be in like a large gym or something like that, where it would have required, hey, can I talk to these people? Sure, or no, or whatever the case would be, because you're not going to be able to get to him or talk to him or record the match or whatever without his say so. But looking at this building, it was like, I don't know what he was trying to prevent. I mean, you could have literally just stood on the back row with a camera and got the entire show without any problems. Maybe the interview would have been an issue, but if he wanted to show, and he clearly did not want anybody getting, quote, content off of his program, I don't know how he would have been able to stop it. Just judging on the size of the building, it's like a small ballroom. And not that anything's wrong with that, but come on, dude, give me a break. You wouldn't have been able to stop anything. So there you have it. Those were the matches that were taking place by WoW talent outside of WoW's parameters. 3 of them so far. The only other match that I've ever known that a WoW talent participated in as their WoW talent beyond the confines of a WoW match or a WoW ring, a somewhat lost media. The first one is Riot taking on Angelina Love. That was probably about 20 years ago. And all I've ever seen off of that was maybe like a clip or 2. And then there is the Keita Rush, Steffi Slays match. And I hesitate to call it a match. It's probably more like, here's an exhibition between the real fights. So they had a match at one of the Glory events a couple of years ago. And again, all I've ever seen from it is maybe a couple of clips here or there. I've never seen the entire match. Not even sure why he allowed the match, he being Dave McClain, if he wasn't going to get the footage. That seemed kind of silly to me, that he wouldn't at least like, hey, look, we got some match footage of our girls in a different environment doing a whole thing in front of this arena. I mean, it would have looked great. I mean, the only other way that I can think of that he wouldn't want to do it is if the audience pretty much groaned at it or something like that. But anyhow, those are about it. Aside from that, WoW talent generally tends to stay regarded and relegated to a WoW ring. So that would be that. And now we have our new episodes waiting around the corner so we can see exactly what is going to go on, how this is going to work, and whether or not this stuff coming up in the very near future at this point is going to surpass expectations and become this redeeming season. What are we going into? This is season 4. So yeah, I mean, will this season redeem whatever continuity errors, whatever problems that they've had leading into it? I've noticed that they have now begun to advertise their product. I mean, wow. And I don't mean that as in terms of the promotion. They actually have their product, their merchandise being advertised on their site. It's not that they didn't have it before. It's just that you needed to go, I don't want to say out of your way to get it, but you needed to find that probably at the top and then just kind of scroll through beyond that point. Now, if you go to the website, it's like front and center. You still have to look at the WoW-centric merchandise first. They're not selling you on, well, at least in that banner, they're not selling you on the individuals, but they're selling you on get your WoW logo shirt, get your WoW logo mug, get your WoW logo carrying case, get your WoW logo calendar. I shouldn't say WoW logo calendar. I'm sure they got more in it than that. But it's all WoW logo things opposed to, the talent in and of themselves. I wouldn't kill for it, but I would really want to know how much that is selling. I mean, I really do. Not that, I'm looking for them to do bad. Not that I'm wishing ill on it or something like that. But I really, really, really want to know what the demand for their talent stuff is. Somebody out there wants it. That much I'm positive. Somebody out there that's a fan of WoW wants it and may just go ahead and purchase it. I mean, I've seen some comments on the Reddit site where it's like, somebody talked about the Goldie Collins dog bowl and maybe a few other talents that's there. I don't know how many of those exist out in the world where those people would want to see, hey, I want a Goldie Collins dog dish or something like that. But maybe it's more than one. Maybe it's, if there's one in every state that wants to get one that is airing, then that might be a whole $50. Well, maybe 500. Depending on how much. I didn't look at how much it costs. So they've got a couple of these things out there. Maybe they will actually start advertising them during the show. How about that? I will tune in and check it out and see. That is where, my interests lie right now. How much drive did they create for their fans to purchase any of this stuff that they've got? Time will tell. Hey, folks, I am breaking into my own bonus with a bonus to the bonus. As I just got finished doing this, I decided to go onto the website because I didn't actually scroll through all the items that they have on their shop and merchandise page on the website. And after I got done, I decided I wanted to take a look. Let me see exactly what they have, what they're selling. I mean, all of it in full. I looked at a few of it before I started recording, but I did not look at the entirety of it. And it's got some reasonable things in there. It's got some lazy things in here. It's kind of all over the page. Again, I know I said it in the previous recording. Somebody out there wants this. Somebody out there wants this, and I am very, very, very interested in anybody that decide to buy, or more importantly, I'm very interested in what kind of sales that this is going to do or may have done. I doubt that I will ever know that, but it would be very interesting to see. Okay, somebody decide to buy some of these things because they just like this person. I find it somewhat difficult to believe. I'll just say that off the top, that a good chunk of this would sell anywhere. Not because of the talent involved. It's because it's not pushed. It's not really talked about. Some of the people that are, well, I'm not going to say some because it's all basically the wild talent, but the talent that they have attached to this merchandise site, a lot of them, some of them you don't know. And some of them you might know of, but you don't really know them. Like BK Rhythm, for instance. You know of her, but how many times have you really heard BK Rhythm just sit there and cut a promo and tell you who she is, what her motivations are, why she's in WoW, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have a lot of that. So it's almost to me, it's almost very dependent on you just liking that persona, that character, and hey, is Brooklyn Love. These are largely logo products, and by that I mean there's no additional layer to it. It's just, here's the logo of this person, we put it on this piece of merchandise, buy that merchandise. Opposed to, and I'm trying to think of a good example here that would be more recent. Okay, it's not recent, but you might understand it. You could go out and buy you a Die Hard shirt. Or you can buy you a shirt that says "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker," and people will understand it because they saw the movie. Anybody that saw the movie will understand that line. Or you can get a Rush Hour shirt, or you can get a shirt that says, "Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?" There, those things where you having invested and or connected to that character, that person, whatever the event was, something along the lines within that movie, product, personality, et cetera, got your attention. Here, there's not a lot of layers underneath the name. The name is it. Oh, sure, you have, your forced upon catchphrase, because they do have the class master. She does have a shirt, and it does say to read a book. But, okay. I don't know if that thing is over with anybody. I don't know if people run around and tell you, read a book. Opposed to when people had hot catchphrases, you smell what the rock is cooking, or you can't see me, et cetera, et cetera. This site tells, in between the lines, this site tells a lot. But there are a couple of things that are there. I want to just take a quick scroll through some of the products. They got accessories, they got bags, they got birthday cards. I do not know why they have that. Car products, drinkware, gift card, hats, hoodies, jackets, kid and baby clothes, pet products, socks and shoes, sports products, stickers, tank tops, t-shirts, tech products, and the WoW Official Collection. The WoW Official Collection is exactly what you would think it is. It's just merchandise that has the WoW logo slapped on it. Whether that be a bag, sandals, fanny pack, gift card. Yes, they do have a gift card. A jigsaw puzzle. I guess for you jigsaw enthusiasts out there, that you got those. And I'm not going to sit and say that, all these products are bad. I mean, if I were going to purchase anything, it would probably be the stickers because I like the artwork on it, but I am not willing to pay $5 for a singular sticker. That just seems ridiculous to me. If somebody else out there decides to buy it, you let me know. And they also seem somewhat outdated. Like, you have, I don't know why I was about to say Scout Parker. You have her in her previous incarnation of an outfit, whereas on the site, we know that she's morphed into something else. And some of these things, honestly, the stickers, the official collection shirts, the t-shirts, those things, hey, absolutely fine. The bag, all that stuff. The stuff that they're just slapping their logo on and the logos of the individuals, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with it. Wouldn't say that I necessarily will get those, but I'm fine with it, and I think that they should be pushing. They should be advertising this on TV. I hope I see lower thirds or commercials for it when they come back on the air. If you're going to sell it, sell it. Now, having said that, some of these items are like, I don't know why they would do this, and this seems extremely ridiculous and or lazy. And I'll start with the birthday cards. The birthday cards are worthless. I wish I could say it a different way, but they're absolutely worthless. Each one of these cards says the exact same thing. It's your day. Unleash your inner hero. Wishing you a knockout birthday filled with power, passion, and unforgettable moments. Every last one of them says the same thing. So it doesn't matter if you get a Goldie Collins birthday card or Tara Strike or Tormenta or whoever. It makes no difference. On the inside, it is all the same wording. So you're not gaining anything one way or the other. And then you got Holly Swag on there wearing the outfit that she had on a season and a half ago. So I don't know why those particular products are there. Maybe somebody will buy it. Who knows? I don't get that. I understand that they're trying to get some things that are centric to the personality. Catalina Speed has a license plate that they're selling and a car magnet. I think you'd have to be an extremely dedicated WoW fan to drive around town with a Catalina Speed license plate. Or a WoW license vanity plate for that matter. I don't even know if Dave McClain drives around with a WoW vanity plate. That would be interesting to see if he did. The baby products. Believe it or not, WoW has baby products. Now, what I did not believe, and I still don't believe, is why on earth they have jigsaw puzzles applied to the baby section of their site. I mean, it's for babies. And the low count of the puzzle is like 252 pieces. That's a choking hazard if I've ever heard one. They did not have children. I don't know. Anyhow, somebody probably should take the time, and I'm saying this, I hope somebody's ears hear this. Somebody should take the time to remove those jigsaw puzzles out of the baby section. They don't belong there. You don't buy jigsaw puzzles for babies. And it expressly says kid and baby. You're probably not going to get some kid that's going to sit there and put together 252-piece jigsaw puzzle. So get that thing out of there. It probably doesn't belong. But the thing that out of all of the stuff that they have, because I get it. I mean, I even got a comment a while back where somebody said they was thinking about getting the Goldie Collins dog dish. So, hey, maybe they'll do it. I don't know if that would be something that I would bother with, but I mean, for $40. But hey, knock yourself out. But the one thing that bothered me in here, and I'm not going to say all items, the one thing that bothered me here was the calendar. The calendar. That thing has got to be the laziest product that I have ever seen. There is no way that I can get around it. This is absolutely lazy. All this calendar are the shots from ringside from the 2024 shoot that they did and slapping it on a 2026 calendar. The stuff that you see me use for like the thumbnail and the video in between that, the things that they put on their Instagram and stuff like that, those shots. They're all in front of Vegas. They're all just shots that were already picked out for action elsewhere, thrown onto a calendar. You literally could do this calendar on your own. All of these shots exist out there in their internet land somewhere. If you took all of these and just applied it and said, make me a calendar at Walgreens, you'd have this calendar. This thing is lazy. It didn't take any effort, thought, or any type of motivation whatsoever. It didn't even bother to have like, hey, it's Christmas, let's have a Christmas shoot. All they got is a picture of Daisy Lane doing a flying head scissors on Coach Campanelli for December. And if the picture is accurate, it doesn't even have the like holidays listed on it. Again, same rules apply. You would have to be a very dedicated WoW fan to decide that, hey, I want to get this calendar. I would feel personally cheated. Especially when I know that, why didn't you just get a photo shoot together and have them do some stuff to put on this calendar? They have promotional shots. I would prefer that. At least it looked like they would have some level of effort or time put behind it. But no, of all of the things that are here, the thing that I might have bothered to buy, this is about $20. Once I saw the pictures that were attached to it, changed my mind immediately. Every shot's right there in front of Vegas. Every shot's from the same angle. Every shot's from the floor, like the corner shooting towards the casino lights and the hotel and all. It is all the same thing and a different face by the month. I can't even say a different face, a different action shot by the month. They could have put some more effort into that. I'm sorry. I'm sure somebody in WoW's office were like, well, no, we couldn't have did it because X, Y, Z. Yeah, you could. You could have put more effort into this. You got an entire year. You could assign somebody, go get us a calendar made and get some photos to do it. I mean, it's not like the holidays switch days every year. They fall on the same ones. Anyhow, I just had to take a moment to get that and just vent for a second. And I will reiterate this. Not all the products are bad. It's just a question of whether or not you are a dedicated enough fan and like these individuals strongly enough to purchase their logo shirts, because beyond the logo, there's nothing really else to them. Then it's not a huge design that's been tossed onto it. It's not like they got some masterful graphic design person that made these incredible shirts. They're just logo shirts, not bad, but not great. They're average. And yeah, I guess if you had one, you'd wear it. but it's also not something that I would go out my way to get. But I'm speaking for me. What say you? When you see these shirts, is that something that you would buy? Are you willing to buy a WoW hoodie? Are you wanting to get a WoW calendar? Are you willing to get a WoW bag or a phone case? Leave your comments below. I'd love to see it. Now, back to whatever I was saying in the original bonus episode. Thanks. So, on that note, you can go up to their page, WOWE.com, and you've got the Shop the WoW Store banner. It's about time. It only took them 4 seasons to figure that out. to make their shop a little bit easier and get some people, actually get some eyes on it so they can maybe draw some interest. I mean, they got things in there that I probably wouldn't do myself. I don't know if I would get a WoW paddle. I don't even know why they would have that. But it seems like the AI generated WoW logo and the WoW silhouette girl is mostly on their stuff rather than the actual talent. But if you do click the link, in fairness to them, if you do click the link, that's where you get towards the WoW officials store where you can see their individual products. Outside of that, you're just getting the wild centric things. But it also feels like this is probably a what would you call it? A print on demand service. Again, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Saves them from having stock just sitting in a warehouse somewhere. So, you order it and you get it when you get it. But I am probably not going to go and buy a $40 hoodie that reads Abilene Maverick. That's just me. So, in the interim, until the next time we come across a WoW episode, and by my calculations, as I'm recording this, I'll probably have me another 5 days before I have to sit down and watch something that should be brand new. Fingers crossed on that, because I haven't seen any press releases or anything like that has read that, hey, we're coming back and doing this, that, or the other thing. But they said the 3rd, and I am recording this ahead of the 3rd. So we will see when the time is right. And on that note, folks, thank you for the couple of you that decided to listen to this little bit of bonus. I just felt like, hey, might as well get back into the rhythm of recording episodes again, since we're now moving into 2026. Again, Happy New Year to you all. Thank you for your time and listening to these podcasts as they release. And when they come up with the next one, we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.